Dragomon Hunter is being closed down by its publisher Aeria Games. The game will be closing down on June 29th, and basically if you want to keep playing the game, it won't be available anymore. However, there are private servers. We'll talk about that in a minute. Michael here with another Tabik video. So yeah, Dragomon Hunters was a fairly interesting, small, little casual MMORPG I played quite a long time ago. I played it during launch and I actually did a full review of it, and this was back in my transitional days for the review, so it was actually fairly early into the game, but it actually had some promise to it. It kind of had the idea of taking sort of Monster Hunter sort of style stuff to where you were kind of hunting down monsters, but you were able to tame them and make them your pets. They had a whole ranch element and farming and stuff like that, and it was kind of interesting in a lot of things that it did, but it was kind of held back by a lot of sort of poor design decisions and some great technical problems that just kind of ruined the game for a lot of people. And so it never really picked up a large player base, and the art style definitely didn't sort of help that either. It was more of a sort of chibi / cutesy art style, and a lot of people don't normally end up going for that. And so I definitely see where it can end up struggling getting some players. However, Aeria Games has decided after 17 months of the game functioning, which I believe it was actually a different game beforehand as well, so it was actually relaunched through Aeria Games. I think it was called like Dragon Slayer or something like that in Korea, I believe. I could be wrong on that. I wasn't able to find much info on it because, once again, it's not a title that actually picked up a lot of interest. And so basically, you know, they tried it, they have it for 17 months, and now it's closing down. So yeah, on June 29th, it won't be available. Now, the cool thing is that they are actually doing some sort of refund thing. So if you ended up buying cash shop stuff into the game, they're actually refunding it as bonus AP, which I guess is a secondary currency through the cash shop of Aeria Games that they have. So basically, it's like a bonus point thing. So it's like you can actually like use it in other Aeria games, I think. I'm trying to remember how Aeria Games works. I personally don't like Aeria Games. Talk about them in a second because they do a whole bunch of like cash grabby type stuff. But for the most part, let's go ahead and talk about Dragomon Hunters. Like, why is it shutting down? It's basically shutting down because of player base. Like, it takes money to actually run the servers and everything like that. And I can't imagine it was a lot. And Aeria Games likes to shut down games that are still functioning fairly well. But the player base has been decreasing. You can actually see it on even just the Steam charts, for example, that the player base just basically died and there was not very many people ended up playing it. And so basically this runs into a situation to where no matter how good or bad a game is, if nobody's playing it, then nobody cares about running it. And so basically it wasn't profitable. And so they just ended up deciding to shut it down. And it seems like it wasn't like one of those things to where it's just like all of a sudden we're just like, we don't want it anymore, it's going away. No, it was one of those situations to where it was definitely a sort of long-term situation to where they're like, yeah, we definitely saw this kind of coming. There's users have been slowly dropping off. We've had less interest in the game, less people buying into it, and yada yada. And so, yeah, it just became a business decision to shut it down. So it's not, I don't think it's going to be one of those games that ends up like picking back up again either. I don't think they're going to end up reviving it. There could be another publisher that's like, hey, you know what? We want this. It's interesting. And they might end up trying to do another marketing push for it. But seeing that it's already sort of catched back up again and already failed, and the fact that it had so many technical issues, I believe it's built on like a broken engine or something like that. Like, I don't know what engine it's built on, and I don't know all the technical aspects to it, but back when I did my review, and this could have easily been fixed, and I could be wrong on this, but it was very broken in the technical aspect. It had a ton of pop-in, a lot of sort of the graphical interface wasn't working properly. I would constantly have weird sort of graphical glitches that was preventing me from playing certain parts of the game. I believe in my review there's a section to where I ended up showing off to where I was at the character select screen and all of the polygons were going all over the place and everything was flickering, and that was not an uncommon occurrence. And a quick look at the Steam forum seems like people were still having those sort of problems. And so it's one of those situations where maybe the game just wasn't technically ready either. And so maybe they're like, all right, well, if we want to do a marketing push for this game, we actually need to fix it up, because you do a big marketing push. If the game is broken in any sort of way, it's going to actually negatively impact the game as a whole. And so they could have just decided, hey, it's not worth rebuilding all this type of stuff. And they didn't necessarily have the money to do so either. They weren't having people going in and trying the game out naturally. So doing any sort of marketing push wouldn't have necessarily been that great of an idea when they couldn't even fix the problems that were going on. And it seems like the servers have also been having problems as well, most likely, once again, to the fact that nobody's paying for it. And so Aeria Games probably shut down a portion of their servers. They ended up doing this with a few of their other games that ended up shutting it down. A lot of people don't like Aeria Games. Now, how was Dragomon Hunters? What would I think of it? Well, in my review, I actually have my full thoughts on it and stuff like that. This was in my transitional review period, so I was still trying to figure out how to set up the format, and I didn't necessarily know how to cover the game. So my review is not 100% perfect, but it still covers my general kind of consensus on the game, to where it was a fun little casual game. It had some poor design decisions and some sort of poor technical issues as well, like I just was mentioning. But for the most part, it wasn't a bad game. It's definitely not one that I could see just like randomly shutting down. It didn't seem like it would be that expensive to run either. And so it's one of those games that I could have easily seen just kind of running around and having a niche market. Unfortunately, it didn't end up picking up that market. Could it pick it up again? Possibly. But they'd have to fix up those technical issues and figure out how to actually market it properly to where people are not expecting a giant RPG, because you actually look at their trailers and everything like that, and they're all super animated and they have all this sort of graphical stuff going on. They're like, yeah, it's all crazy and stuff like that. The game is nothing like that. Now, it was fun. It was a fun little casual kind of instance-based experience, and I did enjoy what it was, and I like the cutesy art style. You know, I'm one of those kind of suckers for the cutesy style games, and no, I'm not like looking for them. I do prefer the more serious toned games, but at the same time, I'm not somebody who minds it, and I did find it kind of enjoyable, and the art style was consistent. And it had an art style that if they ended up polishing up the technical side, it could end up being perfectly fine, and it could run on lower end systems. And one of the biggest portions to it that I actually enjoyed is the fact that it was a family friendly game. And so if I wanted to play it with, like, let's say my youngest sister or something like that, I could do that. That was something that I could do, because there's not a lot of MMOs that you can play with younger people. So that was definitely one. And it did have a lot of in-depth mechanics with its whole ranching system and things like that. Once again, cover it in my review, so you can end up looking at that. But yeah, do I think it'll end up getting revived? Nah, not really. I don't think it'll end up coming back, and I don't necessarily blame Aeria Games for shutting it down either, because I understand that while people enjoy a game, like somebody could have ended up... Wow, I died. Well, that was unfortunate. Whoops. I accidentally ran into some ice there. Anyways, yeah, so while I could see it kind of having like a niche market and everything like that, I didn't end up catching it, and I don't blame Aeria Games, because while a lot of people, you know, will enjoy an MMO, such as the game in the background, which is Phantasy Star Universe, that I enjoyed this MMO a long time ago, I also don't blame them for shutting it down, because it was losing player bases. They ended up releasing a sequel, which is Phantasy Star Online 2. Well, technically a sequel. It's technically a sequel to the online, but then they linked the storylines, and so basically Universe is in the same place. Ethan Weber's there, and it's like, what is going on? And it's like, oh, all the games are linked and everything, which everyone was already making theories about, but they just ended up confirming it, so whatever. But anyways, yeah, and it kind of sucks when an MMO shuts down, but this is one of the reasons why I'm so kind of cautious about MMOs, especially these days, because I do see certain ones, like there was LOL Online, which is still an MMO I quite enjoy. I played it recently, and it's still not bad. The new servers they have for the new publisher, kind of bad, but for the most part, it's actually still an enjoyable game, and a lot of these MMOs kind of have interesting ideas. I like the idea of traveling around and kind of capturing and taming pets and stuff like that, and that is kind of cool. I like the ranching aspects, and I think that that's something that can end up delivering quite well into an MMO. Unfortunately, this isn't a game that was delivering on it perfectly to where it's going to end up getting marketed to a bunch of people, and then the industry is not going to see that and be like, oh my god, we need to put that into our game. And so it ends up making it so that these niche products don't end up surviving all that long. And I feel like it would have been interesting if they would have made it more of like an online single player experience, or not really an online single player experience, that was the wrong wording to say it, but like rather a single player, like let's say it was a Monster Hunter, because they said like it was sort of like a monster hunting RPG and stuff like that. So what if they ended up making it so that it just was like a single player game, but it had online multiplayer and stuff like that, and just make a complete game and make that sort of a genre? Because that would be really, really interesting. And I think it's unfortunate this game is shutting down, just because not only do I think I feel bad for people that end up liking a game and then it ends up shutting down. I know it sucks, because there's a lot of games that I ended up enjoying. I still like to point out Rusty Hearts, which is one of my favorite MMOs ever, and ended up getting shut down because basically the publisher crashed, and the developer kind of crashed with them for a bunch of legal reasons. And so basically the game ended up just no longer existing. Even though I loved that game, it just ended up no longer existing. But this game actually had some interesting concepts, and I want to see those interesting concepts put into other games. I love Monster Hunter style games. I love these sort of kind of dungeon instance-based MMOs as well. I love that style. And so that's why one of the reasons I play Phantasy Star Online 2 so much. And it's one of the reasons why I still like Universe all the time. And so I still play the single player every once in a while. Now, obviously, I haven't really gotten back into the single player since my saves ended up resetting, which was fairly unfortunate. So I'm playing as a level 7 right now, which got me killed. But for the most part, it's still an enjoyable game. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate this game is ended up shutting it down. It doesn't surprise me in the slightest. It's one of those things to where nobody ended up hurting about it. I saw one of my friends was like, he was randomly looking through my channel. He's like, oh, dude, you got this review of this one game. I'm like, oh, yeah, forgot about that game. Like, just completely forgotten. Nobody ended up knowing about it. And so he ended up trying it. He didn't like it because it was too simple for him. And he's just like, yeah, it has a bunch of technical problems. I can't get it to run properly. And so, yeah, I guess that could be one of the reasons why it's shutting down, like I said. But for the most part, yeah, it sucks. So if you were enjoying the game, there are people saying there is a private server up, and so look for that. Obviously, private servers are not legal and everything, but I know what it's like to get your MMO shut down. And if you end up playing on a private server, just keep an eye out for any official servers that end up popping back up. There might be some publisher that ends up picking it up. Like I said, LOL Online was one that had a lot of promise and stuff like that, and that one was better than Dragomon Hunters, quite frankly, but it didn't have the whole taming and rancher aspect, and it wasn't as kid-friendly either. It was more dark and everything like that, but it was still a fun game as well, so yeah, basically, if you're looking for that, go ahead and do a Google search for that. I'm sure it's up there somewhere, and I'm sure some people are playing it. I don't know about the quality or anything like that, and somebody might end up releasing tools to end up hosting your own, which I wish they would do for Universe already, but I guess the people that are making it kind of gave up on it. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this one. As always, you can end up checking out my reviews for the games I end up mentioning in this series and everything. So I do have a review for Dragomon Hunters if you're still interested for whatever reason. The game is shutting down on June 29th, so if you still want to try it for whatever reason, I hate trying games that I know are going to shut down, and so I definitely won't be replaying it. But if you want to end up checking it out, it is on Steam and it is free to play and everything. So yeah, I guess you could try it out. They're having some end game event thing and everything, so I guess, you know, if you're interested in that sort of thing, or if you ended up playing it beforehand, you just want a quick nostalgia trip before it ends up shutting down, go ahead and try it. The game was only out for a year, and so it's not like it was a huge nostalgia trip or anything like that to see it again. I'm like, oh yeah, that game exists. Forgot about that. So yeah, I don't know. Anyways, the game in the background has been Phantasy Star Universe, the offline version and everything. The servers shut down years ago, and it's still a sad affair because even though Phantasy Star Online 2 is a better game in like every single aspect, besides some of the RPG elements, this game was like just a classic experience. I had like a lot of classical elements, and I still enjoy it. So yeah, you can still play the offline mode. Yeah, it's not that great though. The offline mode's pretty short. The portable games are basically what was like a full online game, but the graphics suck, and it's not on PC, so I just don't really play them that much. Or my PSP is broken, so I can't really play them. I do have an emulator for them, so I might end up trying to get that to work properly sooner or later, but we'll go ahead and look at that in another video. Anyways, like I said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. And I really hope that no more MMOs end up shutting down. I know there's a few that I noticed on some shutdown lists that I ended up covering and just never ended up looking back at to. So I might have to go back over that list and do videos on those and give out my thoughts and see if anybody's interested. Most likely not. I mean, most of these games just shut down and nobody cares. And so it's like a very small player base that ends up caring all that much, which is sad. It's super, super sad. I would hate to be a developer, make an MMO, and then have it shut down and have nobody care. I think that's sad, but yeah. Anyways, see you later.